What's poppin', Pasta Pals? It's me, MT, and this is a breakdown of the super dark episode 4 of Rick and Morty Season 7, where Morty discovers the disturbing, very human truth about Spaghetti Night. And since this episode is very much on the dark side, I just want to give a content warning at the top of this video for anyone who may not be comfortable with the topic of, self-induced dying, because this Rick and Morty episode is all about this. Though I am assuming that you probably already watched the episode and know this already, but better safe than sorry, right? Also, spoilers for the movies Never Let Me Go and Soylent Green coming in your direction, just in case you were planning on marathoning these two movies during the weekend for some reason. Hey, I don't know your life. But anyways, let us break this mother dang down, shall we? And when the episode starts with Rick bringing in the spaghetti for the family, Summer is texting with an Android user on her iPhone before smashing her iPhone against the wall ultra dramatically, showing that she would much rather be eating the spaghetti than texting, which is a big deal for Summer because she loves to text. But after the family learns the dark secret of where their spaghetti comes from, Rick brings Morty to the spaghetti's planet of origin. And when they arrive at a morgue to taste the deliciousness of death, the clock on the morgue wall reads 3:55 p.m. However, when they arrive at the funeral service for the guy Lawrence that they just ate, the sign outside the church notes that the service started around 10 a.m. So either Rick and Morty flew to a different part of the planet with a different time zone to attend this funeral, or that was one really long moment of silence. But before they even leave the morgue for the funeral, Rick accidentally flashes himself with a memory wiping device extremely similar to those found in the Men in Black franchise, with Morty being super annoyed that Rick accidentally mind wiped himself again, which is apparently a regular problem with Rick considering how Rick has done this in the past during the Morty's Mind Blowers episode when Summer had to restore Rick's memories using an emergency protocol that he left behind for Summer just in case. But anyways, back to the funeral, a really interesting detail that I noticed is that it appears that this Lawrence guy the Sanchez family ate was highly likely to be the ex-husband of Amber Maps, the woman that we see old man Fred Bunks steal away from her old family after they reconnect on Friendbook, which is of course this planet's version of Facebook. The corpse that Rick is scooping the spaghetti from at the beginning of the episode has the same hairstyle and 5 o'clock shadow that Amber's former husband had. So the implication seems to be that this man chose to unalive himself in large part due to him losing the love of his life, Amber. But what is particularly interesting about this moment is that when Amber goes to say goodbye to her ex, you can see a bandage wrapped around his waist, possibly the show's way of connecting this ex-husband to the corpse at the start of the episode, sort of like foreshadowing for his life in a way. But anyways, after Morty heads home and tells the family about the source of their favorite spaghetti, Morty heads upstairs for some cyber sexy time. And it's very clear that the circumstances of the funeral on the spaghetti planet has definitely got mental health on Morty's mind, as he deliberately chooses a depression genre of adult entertainment featuring a family therapist farm girl. Hey man, not king shaming, I've been there before. Just kidding. Only city girls for me. But this is even more hilarious considering that Morty actually has a family therapist in Dr. Wong. So this kind of makes me wonder if he's ever fantasized about her in this type of way. The hormones of a teenager, man. Never underestimate them. And when Morty arrives on Planet Spaghetti and meets the president of the planet, you can see that the presidential seal is represented by 2 angel wings located on the right and center of her desk, with the flag for the planet being depicted as a crescent moon with a cloud in the middle. And later, when Morty brings the Sanchez family the good news of ethically sourced human spaghetti, Summer asks Beth to pass her the Parmesan, which is of course a nod to the Parmesan universe where everyone says Parmesan like Parmesan that the Sanchez family were forced to move to in the season premiere of season 6, due to Dimension C-131 being taken over by Mr. Frondles. It seems like Summer hanging out with the variants of her friends in this universe has caused her to accept the popular and incorrect pronunciation of Parmesan. But soon after this, Rick comes in to burst Morty's bubble by revealing that the spaghetti planet has begun producing Mortios, which is a parody of SpaghettiOs, which then causes them to head back to the counter-Earth-like spaghetti planet and fly past that planet's version of the Golden Gate Bridge, a place that unfortunately has a really high rate of people who jump off of it every year to end their lives. A similar trend that the people of the spaghetti planet apparently encouraged by placing spaghetti strainers instead of safety nets below the bridge. And when Rick and Morty discuss the radio music of Planet Spaghetti, Morty assumes that they all listen to the artist Enya. But Rick tells him that their radio is all just the morning zoo format with multiple hosts talking back and forth but without playing any music, because music actually brings joy to people and they can't have any of that now, can they? Joy always bad for business, which isn't too far from our reality. Then Rick flies up to a billboard showing us advertisements for Infidelity Island, which is a parody of Love Island, Inseparable Sisters, which is a parody of Conjoined Twins Inseparable, and your typical wildlife show on the Discovery Channel. Rick then makes a joke about the planet being bought by the Discovery Corporation, which is hilarious considering that that's exactly what happened to the Rick and Morty show when Discovery acquired Warner Brothers. And later, when Morty begs Rick to help him solve the crisis on the planet, Rick initially demands that Morty could never say no to him again, to which Morty then compares Rick to the infamous American cult leader Keith Raniere, who is known for co-founding the NXIVM cult and unfortunately using a very similar you can never say no approach to a number of women using that very cult. A real piece of shit, that one. But the good news is that turd will be rotting in prison for the rest of his life due to an unsurvivable 120-year sentence. Good riddance. I hope no one writes him letters. And later, after Rick's clone subjects off themselves or running away from Rick's clone facility, Rick mentions the movie Never Let Me Go, which is a 2010 dystopian romantic tragedy about a facility of clones born and bred for their organs to be harvested in adulthood, starring Keira Knightley, Andrew Garfield, and Carey Mulligan. And needless to say, it's a major bummer, and all the main characters die, which is neat. And after this, when Rick and Morty try to mess with some morally gray areas, Rick references the trolley problem and says that Morty should confront that moral dilemma head on. The trolley problem is, of course, the hypothetical thought experiment that raises the question of whether to divert a trolley to save a large number of people from getting ran over at the cost of a singular person on the alternate track being struck dead by that trolley instead. Rick knew that Morty was not unfeeling enough to be okay with another living being suffering, even if it meant solving their major problem of mass deaths on a global scale, something that Rick has undoubtedly had to do many times in his wacky science man career. And after Rick develops his ethically questionable solution, he brands that new spaghetti as It's People, which is a reference to the 1973 film Soylent Green, which is a movie about a society set in an alternate 2022 that is feeding their poor people a brand of wafers called Soylent Green, conveniently not telling any of them that Soylent Green was actually made of people. And when the main character discovers the dark truth by the end of the movie, he yells out, "Soylent Green is people! It's people!" Which is where Rick got the name from. But anyways, when the Spaghetti Planet people reject Rick's new spaghetti offerings, Real Spaghetti and Torsos Rights radical activists burst into Rick's production facility, with the Torsos Rights leader being clearly modeled after Sylvester Stallone's John Rambo with his signature red bandana and mullet. And later, when Rick and Morty go to convince old man Fred to take the easy way out, you can see pictures of both Fred and Amber bunks on the wall, including one of them at the Grand Canyon, and another one of them sitting next to each other on rocking chairs in their old age, like they do in the montage, as well as a big picture hanging over Fred's bed of both of them having a picnic alongside their world's version of the Manhattan Bridge. But anyways, right before Rick activates his euthanasia machine in his conveniently prepared euthanasia science facility that Morty questions, he calls what he is doing the Kitty Hawk of the planet's metaphorical Wright brothers flight, with Kitty Hawk of course being the name of the plane the Wright brothers flew to kickstart the aviation advancement of humanity. And when the flashback montage to an acoustic cover of Live Forever by Oasis starts, you can see that Fred's earliest memories is when he was a baby eating jam at the park with his mom while staring at the high-up architecture of the city, a memory that would serve as the basis for Fred's entire life as he tries to recapture that moment by attempting to become an architect and trying to get Amber to replace the role of his mother on that picnic blanket. Real Freudian shit, man. And during that life montage, we see that Fred invented this world's version of Legos and submitted his Lego idea to a parody of Shark Tank, which led to his successful alternate career path. But after Fred Bunk's life is played for everyone on the planet to see, everyone gets grossed out and Rick and Morty head home to eat their new favorite Salisbury steak dinner, which leads us to a post-credit scene set in a universe where vacuums replaced humanoid people. And a vacuum version of Rick Sanchez goes through the same events that normal Rick does in the episode. But instead of a humanoid-looking Fred Bunks, Vacuum Rick euthanizes a tree creature that looks a lot like Groot from the MCU. And finally, as the vacuum citizens of the planet look on in horror at the truth of where their vacuum bags come from, you can see a store on the side of them called Bag, B-H-A-A-G, that sells designer vacuum bags, which clearly seems like this vacuum world's parody of a Gucci store or some other popular kind of designer bag store that I wouldn't know about, but I definitely thought this was a really goofy and lighthearted way to end such a ridiculous and dark episode. But anyways, that is it for my breakdown breakdown of episode 4 of Rick and Morty season 7. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. You can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter if you guys want to see me tweet some weird shit, but most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube or wherever we are on the internet so that you can keep up to date with everything that we're dropping. But anyways, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.